You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy.
Three, two, welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, David Hall.
Hello.
Yo, Brad Wren,
Hey, just trying to avoid the big one this week.
Hallie Dega, and John Curley.
Yep, looking out for the tallywhackers.
And Greg Hectus. On today's show, we will recap the latest Season 2 patch, get an update on another Sim to Reality opportunity, go behind the scenes on the audio side of the iRacing Rain, a public service announcement for oval racers, and if money is no object for you, we have some hardware for you.
And remember that you can follow along with us on your PC or mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all of the great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com. And make sure you select the show notes. We hope to see you there.
All right. I wish I had gotten a chance to look at this one before we started the show. I'm definitely going to go back and watch this later. We're going to kick it off with the audio development blog from Greg Hill. And they're working on some behind the scenes for the sound side of iRacing in the rain.
Yeah, I think people forget about the audio side of it. And this is a great video that really talks about that and how difficult it actually is to recreate the sound of rain appropriately, depending on how much rain there is, or you're going to a drying track, or the cars around you and the sound they create going through rain. And so Greg Hill, Aussie Greg Hill, the Australian guy, um, the most of the video is him talking about the process, how they blend the sounds and different things like that. And from a technical perspective, it's actually pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I thought it was really neat, just the amount of detail he gave to, the kind of the prep for this and years that he's been, either recording rain, listening to rain. He said that he'd get a thunderstorm and he'd go out and sit in the car and listen to the way that the raindrops would hit the roof of the car. And I, like Mike said, we get so focused sometimes on the visual. I just don't think we think about everything else that goes into the immersion factor. Um, there's so many different sounds, and when you watch this, they'll have the motor down, and you can just hear, you can hear the puddles, the tires go through the puddles. You could hear the spray coming up on the body and the underbody and stuff. It was a very, very cool video.
Your brain can actually process sound a little bit quicker than vision too. So some of those things actually get to your brain, get to you as feedback sooner than the visual cues might.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys actually that have done the rain. Do, those audio cues, do they cause you to drive any differently or do things differently?
I think they go
Yeah.
hand. Yeah, I mean it's hand in hand. If you hit a puddle, you not only do you feel it in the steering wheel, but you hear it as well. It's just a completely different sound when you start to, think about if you're driving your personal car, you hit a puddle, it feels different, it sounds different, and I think you get that in the game as well.
You also get a sense of speed. Now I was blown away by how loud it was because I have almost everything except tires turned down quite a bit. And when that new sound feature was on there, it was at 0 dB, and I could not hear anything else at first. The first time I got up to speed with just how loud the rain was, definitely had to crank it down some. But it does give you a whole sense of speed.
Yeah, if you think about driving with no sound, and I don't know if you guys have been in a race when you lose sound, but it's almost impossible to drive. It really is. Like you're wrecking within seconds.
All right. Well, something that they may need to look at behind the scenes fixing is this next option, Brad.
Yeah, so we had a post on X from Tim Moore, just bringing back up the issue that with the bump drafting, and in here you'll see two cars, next gen cars, bump drafting at Talladega, and the trailing car. The whole front fascia comes loose and it's wiggling, wobbling. Um, this was reported back at Daytona. Super frustrating because it's still not fixed. We've been talking about it quite a bit. In a couple races I've done, the 4Xs that you get just from bump drafting. It's just the cars are way too sensitive. Something needs to be done.
Didn't this happen to somebody on the team this week? And I think it did.
The bumper actually falling off?
Yeah. From the checkups and the draft, and yeah, this is what happens. And like this video shows him barely touch, and then he loses the nose. I kind of wonder though, did he already have damage and he just knocked it loose finally, or
Well,
I
in
don't know.
this
Like I
case,
said, this.
I'm not even sure that this was a checkup. It looks like he's just pushing the guy.
Yeah, I mean it's the same. We saw a very similar video back at Daytona. Same issues. I thought they had worked on that, but I guess not. But we've been talking about the 4Xs, just from simple bumps. We dealt with it at Martinsville. I mean, you just tap somebody and it's a 4X. It's the sensitivity is just way too sensitive.
you know, and then on the other hand, Cautionville was one of our titles of our show. There's so many cautions. There's 65% at Richmond under caution. You have that discussion, and so iRacing is like, well, maybe the DQ limit, can help clean this up. But we got to make it more sensitive. Is that the thinking?
You should not be getting 4Xs when you're just giving somebody a push on a restart. That has nothing to do with what's causing all the cautions.
Good point.
Yeah, I think last night one of our teammates, Justin Pearson, within the first, I don't know, 10 or 15 laps, said that had 8X just from bump drafting. That shouldn't happen.
Nope.
And
Yeah, he was top split too.
you're not supposed to be bump drafting, but in this car, that's not the most efficient way to move. But there's these accordion checkups that are going to happen, and you just barely tap the guy. Don't show any damage, but it's a 4X. It's too damn sensitive, and it's this is now a long term problem. This is not something new. But I think that's about all we can say about it. So let's talk, John, about Road America next.
Yeah, so in the iRacing forums in the general banter section, Jared Junkins pleads his case for a rescan of Road America up in Wisconsin, 4-mile road course. And he goes through, of course, won't go through all the details, but he said, this track is historically significant. There have been some technological advances, and so on. So he's pleading his case for a rescan of that track, and has he actually put up a poll to vote yes or no whether or not we want a rescan of this track. Got a few responses in there, but what do you guys think?
76% yes on the vote so far, but I think Road America is not going to get any love because NASCAR quit giving Road America love. They left them 2 years ago, and I don't think we have any NASCAR series there now. Now, if we return to Road America, it's going to be quick to be scanned, I bet.
Is IMSA still going there?
I'd presume so, yeah.
Yeah, if,
You
if
know,
IMSA and Indy are still going there, they may want to do some work on it.
but you got to remember the focus is the NASCAR 2025 game. They got to have all those tracks in there. If NASCAR ends up at Road America, I mean, they absolutely have to, update it. But maybe the Xfinity series or something like that, not necessarily Cup.
Well, I think it. Sorry, I have having headphone issues tonight. But I'm not sure what you guys said, but I do think it needs to be updated. And, if you can remember, if anybody watched the IMSA races from last, I think it was last year, yeah, and how treacherous it was if you came offline. Just change had a completely different effect to the way the racing was. So I think there's quite a bit of character that we still have in the original surface, but I definitely think we need an updated scan.
The way that he wrote this, John, this dissertation about why to, do it. This Now I could be wrong, but this looks like it's written by AI. Like he asked AI, write me a 8-page or 8-paragraph example of why iRacing should rescan this track, and then blah 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 blah. Here it is.
Yeah, yes, because most people, if you were to sit down and say, I want to rescan this track because this is not how the average person is going to write it. There's a lot of detail here, and it's just, the terminology is a little different than what we would normally see on an iRacing forum post.
Right. He's either very eloquent writer, or he's really good with AI. It's one of the two. But no, I think it's actually a person writing this, because there's detail about stuff I don't know AI would know about. But well done on trying to convince the group. But I don't know, if it's on iRacing's radar.
All right, I'll take the next one. We got a public service announcement from Team Conti, and it's for all of those who run any of the NASCAR divisions in iRacing. They're telling you have auto blip off, auto clutch off, and anti-stall clutch on. And this is exactly the way I run it. And this is actually even important in the MX5 too. I remember getting this tip over 10 years ago. You don't need a clutch to shift any of the modern NASCAR videos. You just have to blip the throttle to shift, and you gain time versus having the assist ons. Now, I don't have auto clutch on, but I do sometimes find it faster to clutch with the throttle still down than to blip the throttle. But either way works. Uh, Anti-stall clutch for me is particularly important because I don't have my engine loud enough to know when I've stalled it. So I tried running without anti-stall clutch, and every time I spun, I'd lose so much time because I just didn't know my engine wasn't on, and I'd try to go. But yeah, it's a good tip. The computer is just not going to do the blipping and the clutching as fast as you are because of the way they have it programmed.
Okay. Now, I appreciate Mike Conti and everything he provides, but I'm going to throw another perspective at this. If you're a driver like me, you run auto blip on, and why? And I'll tell you why. Because I've been burned by having auto blip off. And when you've been burned and you've screwed up a restart because of it, you're like, why don't I just turn this on and I'll never have that problem again? Because if I miss the blip, if I over rev and it won't go out, won't switch gear, or I don't hit the clutch in and just enough, and I screw it up, which is likely for me, then it's actually a detriment to the race, to how well I can run. So I actually run auto blip on for that reason, and then I run the other settings as he mentions here.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had auto blip on. Is that any better sounding, guys?
Yep, it's clear
That
now.
sounds better. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, upshifting, I'm clutch. Downshift, I'll blip. In a cup car, whether it's sequential or Xfinity with the 4-speed. I've never really had any issues, missing a shift on the way up. So
Now,
I
does auto
just think
blip?
the auto blip's gonna. I just think the auto blip is gonna. Uh, I don't. So you even using the clutch or not, Mike?
Rarely, no.
Does auto blip actually lift the throttle when you're upshifting? Because
It-
blipping is not lifting the throttle. Blipping is actually pushing the throttle down when you're downshifting.
Yes, but if you have to lift off the throttle to upshift. So
So is that considered a blip as well?
I think that's what it does. Yeah, it
Okay.
you don't have to lift, in other words. So I can go through the gears and have my throttle all the way down because it's Talladega, and I don't have to blip or lift or do the clutch or anything. It just goes through the gears.
yeah, so it's gonna cut it. It's gonna cut the throttle. So, they were talking, I guess, the last few weeks, at least on the Cup side, that they've been messing with the transmissions to where the guys they now, once it gets into the right power band, they literally have the shifter just pulled back, and as soon as you hit the right RPMs, it just will basically fall into gear when you're going up through the gears. Um, but
You
yeah,
like put
I don't.
pressure on it.
Yep, just a little bit of pressure, and it'll go ahead and pop in. Um, but yeah, it run through the gears next time, Mike, and watch your inputs. See if it'll lift. It should. It's got to. Otherwise, it wouldn't go in gear.
Well, I think it does, and I think what Conti is saying here is, a human is faster than the computer doing the blip, and you're giving up time. But my point is if I fail on just one of them, it's worth it the other way around. So I don't know. Maybe I'll reconsider this and try it the other way and see how it rolls. I want to throw in another wrench on this one. Let's add in the fact of are you guys completely set up to turn off your car and turn it back on during the race to save fuel?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, got an ignition switch.
I'm set up
Shoot.
for it, but I don't do it. And I've been burned by that before, and that's why.
Here's something I've kind of seemed to have discovered. I watched with JRT, you can actually see, down to 2 digits how much fuel you're burning, right? Or I think I've watched it. I don't know where I watched it, but you can see down to the either tenths of gallons or hundredths of gallons how much fuel you're burning. And when I clutch but leave the engine on, it's not moving. It's like there's no fuel being burned at all. So it seems to be no less efficient to just clutch than it does to actually shut the engine off.
And that's what I'm doing. Today I had a situation where I was desperately saving fuel, and Justin was like, "Turn it off." I'm like, I'm gonna clutch it," and so I was clutching it because I've been burned. I've had a situation where, and I don't know why, and it's happened more than once where I go to turn the car off and then I can't get it back on.
That's because if your RPMs get too low, it won't roll start. You have to get down into a lower gear.
Again, dump, user error, the problems between the wheel and the seat. Save me from myself. That's the whole idea here. So in summary, auto blip on. I don't use the on off at all. I just clutch it. And that's how I roll, just because it protects me from myself, I think.
So this anti-stall clutch, I've not tried it on track, but I did go into the options under driving aids. And if I click on anti-stall clutch, my pedals become unassigned. Now, why is that?
Do you have a clutch?
I took it off.
That might be why. Because if you disable anti-stall clutch, you have to have a clutch or you'll stall.
Yeah, yeah. So if you spin, and you lock the car down, and if you don't have anti-stall on there, the car's going to stall out. So just like a real car would. Um, I've tried it, and it's just I'm not that good.
Even when you
It's just
even
what
when
it
you
is.
pit, even when you pit, if you don't have anti-stall clutch on, you'll you'll kill the motor. You'll stall out. And you can actually see if you have the little pedal marker with the telemetry that shows your steering wheel and your gear and stuff. The blue line is your clutch if you have an actual clutch, but if you have anti-stall clutch on, there's a thinner blue line that pops up when iRacing is clutching for you.
Yeah, and that, at one point I actually had that off where it was very realistic, where I had to use my clutch. Like you said, you pull into the pit stop, you better push in that clutch or you're going to lose the engine. Um, and
Oh,
so,
and that's why you'll see you watch a stock car, watch when they wreck, 9 times out of 10, they lock it down with the left foot to lock the brake down, and they've got to refire the car because the car stalled once they've come to a stop. I can tell you when I short track raced, that happened to me a couple times to have to avoid an accident and you lock it down, then you're like, "Oh crap, I got to get the car restarted." That's why I just not something I want to deal with in the game.
yeah, again, I've been burned by that where you spin out, the car is stopped. Now you have to start it while everyone else and around you has already left the crash scene, and you're sitting there trying to yank, the car.
Well, I bet you these four guys probably don't use auto blip. What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, so we had a post from Racing Prodigy. So we've talked a few times about their latest program to give guys an opportunity to get behind the wheel of a real race car. So the 4 past winners are Jordan Johnson, Will Redford, Thomas Belliman, and Roop Kerpipa. Oh, yeah, whatever. So had 2 guys from the US, one from the United Kingdom, and then one from Finland. So this is a pretty neat program that they've been doing for quite a while, um, to give guys an opportunity to basically, um, I mean, it's almost like an internship, I believe. I mean, you get an opportunity to then compete for almost a contract, I believe.
Yeah, pretty crazy. So, well, congratulations to them, and it'll be fun to watch.
Next up is a photo shoot setup, and it was basically our little script says, if you have ever wondered how these great screenshots are captured by iRacing, and it's just 3 drivers trying to line up a screenshot, and they're just moving in and forward and back, and there's elevator music. It's kind of comic for about 17 seconds.
You, this is hard to do. I mean, you try to organize the teammates to line up for a group photo. Um, when we had that top 4 at Martinsville, we all went to the front stretch to do donuts together or do burnouts. And it wasn't very choreographed, but we kind of worked it out. But it could have been prettier for sure.
The one thing I like about this is one, you see the amount of time it takes to get done, but that screenshot that they're working on of the 3 next gen cars all lined up. I mean, everybody's seen it when they released the new models. Um, but again, it's so those screenshots you're seeing are taken from the game. I mean, that's what I like too. So it's not anything post rendering outside the game and everything else. When iRacing does these shots, they're in game footage, which I think is pretty neat.
And they're literally, are they having 3 different people in the 3 different cars, all doing it at the same time to make it quick?
I wonder if
Yeah.
they have. I wonder if they have a director on there who's getting them lined up. That sounds like those guys when they're doing photo shoots with the models, and they're like the photo guy is the most diva, more than any of the models.
Or maybe there's one guy at his desk and he has 4 test accounts and he's switching between accounts and moving the car each time that the car moves.
No,
And he's
they're
driving all
all
3 of them.
no, yeah. No, I mean all 3 of them are moving at the same time.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Content.
Mike, how does John do it? I mean, not John. I was thinking I was going to give it to John, then I was going to get to Mike. This is the broken brain of me. How does Max do it, Mike?
Better than
You know,
John.
Max Verstappen is something else. I mean, I love this video I found on Instagram of him and his buddies on a start in a road course, and there's a big wreck, and he kind of drives through the wreck, and just to see his focus and how much attention he has, like you can see in his eyes, like he's at 100%, like he's like just like he's in the F1 car. He's like up on that freaking wheel.
The one thing I like about this is he's having fun, and you can see that in his face. You can see that he's enjoying sim racing. I would not. I can't imagine that's what his face looks like when he's racing, on Sundays in F1. But he's genuinely just having a good time.
Yeah. Somebody called him, he's a sim racer just happens to run Formula One. But yeah, the joy in his face is contagious. It makes you want to go try these kind of races or maybe race with this group of guys. The other thing I liked about the video is you kind of get a look at a few things equipment wise. He's got an Asher racing wheel. You can see the logo on the top of the wheel there. And he's got one of those Recaro seats, red and black, the really expensive seats that Podium Racing was offering.
Isn't that the same one that they put in? Was it Joe Rogan's?
Yeah, Joe Rogan got that seat. Yep. And then that headset, I don't know what headset it is. I was going to ask you guys if you recognize it, but I really like how that mic is not bendable. It's like it's just straight out. I don't know. Pretty nice headset.
Okay, so I did discover that we had a patch. I think I remember seeing notifications for it all weekend. And fortunately, I registered for the race pretty early too, and had plenty of time to install the updates. There were quite a few updates in the notes. In the race servers, they added some crash logs that can be now acquired from replays, and I never realized that it actually would. They could actually use the replay to help identify crash problems. I guess apparently, if you've got the replay, of course, if my iRacing crashes, my replay file goes away, doesn't it?
There's a way to save it, right?
And some other logging parameters for session failures have been updated. That's going to help them with bug fixes. On the physics, they've worked basically on movable track objects like cones, barrels, and brake markers and things to make it more balanced for improved realism. And that made me think of something. You can get damage on the nose from the cones now, the pit cones. People loved knocking those things around onto the track and stuff. I hit one in a practice a couple of weeks ago because I was just like, "Hey, there's the cone. I'll pop it." And then I hit the damage. It was loud, and I was like, "Whoa!" And then I hit the damage button, and it said, "You got damage on the nose." So that blue cone can actually hurt the cars. And somebody knocked one out in the middle of the track at Talladega, and I was like, "I don't know if we should still be doing that."
If you remember, we had a video during Sebring of one coming up, getting kicked up from the side and knocked the rear wing off a car.
Yep. All right. A lot of changes to the weather system. They've worked on some of the flow equations to help determine changes between wet and dry. There's a code for drastic changes over short periods of times, or that's been updated. We got some graphic updates. Do y'all see anything particular in the graphics updates?
Nothing
Well,
that
it does.
affects me.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they've changed, the amount of particles on the windshield has been reduced. So I guess, maybe that's going to be a improved visibility in the rain.
I think it's just tweaking it, is the way I read that. They're just tweaking stuff. Lots of little fixes to cars as well. The Super Formula Lights, which is a pretty new car, had quite a few changes.
Well, I think the
Yeah.
big one on the tracks at Algarve, they've brought Barney the flagman in, so he's going to do the races there.
So
How do you put a track out without the flagman?
I was going to say, how does that happen?
All right. Next item, John, is leaving on a jet plane.
You know, I'm still looking for an ADAC Sim Racing Expo sponsor that will send me to Dortmund this year in October for the Sim Racing Expo. And this thing every year, you know, or the last 2 years since I've been doing iRacing, I've watched a lot of footage from this expo, and doggone it, when are we going to get one in the USA?
That's what I'm saying. Man, I would be there too. Tickets are affordable for this, but it's travel and the hotel and all that.
I saw, I guess, either a post or something from, what is it Lawrence de Swoswa? But I guess he's going as he announced something that has to do with this. He's going either to serve there or something. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Well, he
He's
was,
an affiliate or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, he was there last year and did some live footage, you know, going around for quite a while. I think Mike, you watched that too, but took you to the different booths and showed you, you know, the equipment, talked to a lot of uh, the big wigs in the sim industry. So yeah, they've got everything there.
Look, that's the only way we can participate is via YouTube. So I really appreciate those guys doing that. Yeah, we need one in North America. Let's just say it that way. Look, I mean, the out of all this, what percentage of the sim racing industry is North America? I mean, it's got to be a big chunk.
I think a lot of these
Yeah.
40%? Oh,
I think the pull for Europe is, I mean, it's, what do you got, 10, 12 countries over there that can pull stuff in? I think that's probably why, it's the most centralized place. I mean, if you had one over here, what are you going to do? You're just going to get the States I mean, I don't think you're going to pull people from Canada or Mexico or anything like that.
well, and maybe it's more about where are the sim racing hardware companies located? I mean, how many manufacturers are actually in the United States? Very few.
Yeah, I think that's the big issue. That's where they're located, so that's where they're going to do their show.
Right. You think about most popular sim racing products, it's Europe or Asia based, one of the two.
All right. Well, this next post is a post from Aaron Vogel, and he points out that there's a higher number of track crews on the road courses. He runs his crowds on high, and he just thinks he sees a lot of orange suits around. So it's not something I would ever notice. I don't run track that on high anyway. What do you guys? What about you guys?
I run on low. I just, yeah, it probably would help some with the road courses, but it's, I'm not looking to the sides. I mean, I'm looking at the road. So, yeah, I mean, I'd like to, I guess, from an immersion standpoint, but I'm not willing to give up probably, maybe 4 or 5 FPSs just to see a guy in an orange suit standing there, leaning and wobbling back and forth at me when I go by.
So is it there's more than there were before, or there always have been this many?
He's saying he thinks there's more than there was before, uh, but it's not something that I don't think any of us would notice.
I, I
So no, go ahead, John.
well, I thanks. I wouldn't have noticed it, but here's what occurred to me. I mean, Aaron posted pictures of the guys in the orange suits, and I don't know if that's where the guys in the orange suits are standing during actual races, but you wouldn't get me that close to the track. No way.
Well,
Yeah,
I
and so
think
down. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to read off one of these replies from Michael A. Jones. He said, "Can I point out that where this group of 7 marshals are stood? This is fact incorrect, and there are way too many, and they should be stood at a post hut, either in front or behind, not next to the Armco. This is way too dangerous, especially when they do not also appear to be paying attention to track activity, having their arms crossed and chatting."
Yeah, I mean that
yeah,
one guy's looking at his iPhone.
there was a post a couple above that one, where it talks about you got the iRacing officials out there, and I'd be more apt, I think, to run this if like this. There's a screenshot of this one with a flag in his hand, but they're not waving the flags. And if we actually had corner workers with a flag, I'd probably be more apt to wave it, as opposed to looking up in the top left corner of my screen. Just from an immersion standpoint, it would be kind of neat to see somebody, see a corner worker, with a flag out there, whether it's yellow or double yellow if it's a full course. Well, it's not going to be a road courses. Never mind. Um,
Local yellow.
I think I've seen local yellows being waved.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I
Heard
think
it
I've
on
seen them
high. Find
waved.
out.
But the unfortunate thing about that is it's not enforced. People just don't stop for wrecks. They just plow on through.
Correct. That's why we need a virtual safety car, and if you exceed the speed, you get a penalty.
So interesting. Definitely a kind of a ticky tacky graphics picky issue, but it's definitely something to notice. Probably not as big of an issue as bumpers just popping off of a car that's just pushing. All right, you previewed it earlier, Mike. Let's talk sim to reality.
Busa, Coke driver, and often A Open winner, NIS winner. Uh, he told us before a week or two ago he was having an opportunity in a real race car. So he did a follow up on that. Finished 4th in my first ever race. A dream weekend that I'll always remember, straight from the sim to a challenging Gen 4 Cup car. Only possible thanks to iRacing. Ready to work hard to earn more opportunities. And it shows a couple pictures of him in the car and whatnot. Well done, Matt.
Did he say what track that was on? Because I couldn't tell from the pictures.
We had it on a couple shows ago, and I don't remember where it was.
I think it was New River Speedway. As I look back in his Twitter,
Tri County.
was that it? Tri County?
That's where he was the end of March. Maybe not. Hang on. That's where he was testing.
No, it was April 10th. He mentions New River All American Speedway in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
All right. So he was down there with the Cars Tour. That's where Cars Tour was this past weekend.
Gen 4. I mean, that must be a wow. That thing's got horsepower.
Well, maybe, but generally a lot of the late models don't. Right? They're in the smaller divisions. They're not going to have the same engine that you'd be running in an old Gen 4 Cup car.
True. Good point.
It's the same body, but a different motor. All right. Who watched the highlights? Raise your hand. John, take it.
John will take it.
Yeah, well, I did watch this. It's just under 10 minutes of highlights from April 17th, and most of the highlights were road courses. Just a lot of hard side by side racing. It's refreshing to watch these only because it gives you hope that you can actually run side by side without taking each other out. Just lots of different cars, different tracks, and it's good stuff.
The one that caught me though was number 7, John, where they're racing side by side in the rain. And it's not, well, it's not raining. It's a drying track. Let's say that it's a wet track that's drying. It's raining a little bit. You can actually see the drops coming down. So, but these guys are duking it out. I mean, fighting for the front position, and at some points they're even side by side. And look, I can't even get around the track barely when it's raining. So I haven't really gotten to the point where I'm racing people yet. That's kind of cool.
You can jump in the Rainmaster series and get all the rain you want, Mike.
Well, they did pick a something I didn't own as their first week, so I wasn't going to purchase it just to wreck. So I'll wait till the next. I haven't looked this week. I need to look.
When I watch these videos of all this, I look at it and think, why can't I get in a race where we can do that much side by side racing without taking each other out?
Because those are the high skill drivers.
I know I've opened up a can of worms here, but boy, wouldn't it be nice?
Well, these kind of, these don't happen every time either. I mean, you can have good race drivers and have races, but to have action like this, it's not every time. So it's kind of special when it does happen.
Yeah, I guess that's why they're highlights.
Right. And then the Mazda Cups, I mean, they're going at it 3, 4 wide. You could throw a blanket over these guys as they come to the finish line. It's crazy.
All right, last weekend we had the Road America 500, and here's some numbers for it. They had 1,639 compete for 86,156 laps, and they even saw a few iRacing staff cars out on the track. We got a few screenshots, and then the question was, "How did your race go?" And mine went great. I didn't have a single incident. Also, didn't complete a lap.
Yeah, there is a neat little video if you look at the replies from Jordan Worth, who is from the bottom split. He he got it through. I guess it was a local yellow, you would call it, where a car was actually upside down and he had to dodge it.
Yeah, this was probably one of the smaller of the special events, just not as many people interested in the older sports cars.
They sure look cool, though. Man,
All right, next up, John, it looks like there's an opportunity to race with Dell and Kligerman and Hocevar.
Yeah, talking about older cars, if you want to do a throwback to 1987 at Rockingham of all places, there's it's coming up here pretty soon. The Dale Jr. Foundation is going to put on an event called the Rockingham 508. Uh, I did look at some of this video. It's on the forums. Looks like a big event, some big names. And if you go look at the video, it was really neat because they have some voices from back in the day, like Buddy Baker, Eli Gold, talking about Rockingham.
yeah. So this is an event by Philip McCandless, and it's benefiting the Dale Earnhardt Foundation. But he's got these special, appearances, Parker Kligerman, Carson Hocevar, to try to get people involved in the 87s here at Rock.
Now, Justin should look at this, especially with the success he had in the 87 over the winter.
There's a Google Doc where you can put in your information to get involved.
So, how do they end up qualifying? Is it all on speed, or is it going to be heat races?
So you have to pay PayPal, your contribution towards the Dale Jr. Foundation. It's a voluntary entry fee, $5 minimum.
So single car qualifying Monday, April 22nd to qualify into the main race, as well as 2 last chance qualifiers to make the feature event on Wednesday, April 24th. 500 laps for 508 miles at the Rock.
Well, I hope they have a lot of. If you get a lot of extra tires, you're going to need it for that long of a race. The Rock that'll chew up the tires.
So it's going to be everybody does single car qualifying, and then a few spots with kind of almost like well, the last chance qualifier, essentially race in for the last couple of spots.
That's what it looks like. Let's go in for a good cause.
Yeah, I'm sad that I don't get to see Dale in the public servers that much anymore. But I know that too many people just run their mouths when he's in there.
He's a
I've
busy guy.
always, yeah, but even when I've raced with him in years past, I kind of always respected that. Any of the guys that come in through the years.
I like to just say, hey, it's nice to see you here. I mean, the one that was the most fun to run with was Elliott Sadler when he was running, and he really did not have a big head about it. He was just a cool guy and fun to be on the track with.
That
He
was
raced
fun. Elliot and Hermie.
he raced pretty respectfully too, and I saw him get used to online racing really fast because he was in that winter series, and the first few weeks we were quite a bit quicker than him, and then he started whipping our butts. All right, next up we have the Nürburgring Endurance Championship 2024 Round 2. So, what are the details, Brad?
Yep. So we got so it's 5 different classes, GT3 racers. Um, so the Audi, BMW, Ferrari, Mercedes, Porsche, also GT4s. So you got the Aston, the BMW, and the Porsche, and then TCR teams as well. So it's all going to be basically a sports car class: GT3, GT4, and your TCRs. This one is 2 hours as well, I believe. Um, so yeah, and again, like we talked, I think this is like 7 or 8 events over the course of the year. So pretty neat if you like the Nürburgring.
All right, and while we're talking what's going on in iRacing, we've got the This Week in iRacing highlights. Obviously, Talladega NIS. Indy is at Long Beach. I don't know where IMSA is. Are they at Long Beach too?
Yep.
Any other special highlights?
We've got Rainmaster. Is anybody doing Rainmaster?
Just doesn't get me excited. I'm sure a lot of the roadsters probably will like it, and might be a good place when you want to just go practice some rain. But man, nah, just not at the top of my list.
I figured I don't own the Ferrari that they're using in the Rainmaster. Like, how many Ferraris are there? I've bought in 2 of them already, and I'm already don't have the most recent one. There's a third one.
Yeah, the 296 came out last year, so we ended up using for Daytona, and we used for Bathurst as well.
So I got to buy the car to try it, but I probably will because I want to run it.
Is that the latest GT3 now, Brad?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because Mike, you probably owned both the GTE and the GT3 because back when the GTEs were still big, we ran Ferrari a few times at Daytona instead of the prototype because the old prototype was not terribly fun to drive.
Now, I've been real keen on the IndyCar iRacing series because I've started each week, and now we're going to Long Beach. I actually bought the track maybe a week or so ago and ran some laps on it, and I had a real trouble in that hairpin. Like the car literally would not make the corner. Like it would not turn sharp enough.
I turned some laps for IMSA there the other night, and that last hairpin is a struggle. I I don't I can't imagine trying to get a prototype around there, but it and the Porsche was a struggle.
Yeah, you just have to make sure you use enough of the track.
I think that's it. You got to really plan the entry into the corner to really so you can drive it out of there. Because if you just drive up to the corner like I normally would and then make the turn, you're not making the turn.
I think I ran there last season with him, and I remember getting around there, but I remember getting hitting the right rear one time when there was a pileup because there was a car, a GT that just there was no way he could get all the way around the corner with the way he got turned.
Now, is the Indy 500 embedded in this series? Is it, or is it a separate standalone?
Anybody want to go look? I have not looked.
I I thought maybe early on we talked about this in another show where they're going to do the fixed and open as a separate event because there was a little bit of controversy on the maybe on the timing of those, but I may not be right about that, but it seems like we discussed that.
Why don't you do the notes, Mike? And while you're covering that, I will look.
Oh, I found it. It's May 21st, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 125 laps. It's on the schedule, but I don't think that's the 500.
No, because it'd have to be 200 to be the 500.
So it's got its own Indy event that's not the 500. Okay.
Well, it's leading up to it. Um, that's the week before, so kind of like
Be a
it,
good practice.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of like A Open and NIS. Your A Open still runs for Daytona, but you know, granted, NIS had the 500, but um, I would have, yeah. But since if they're trying to, if the IndyCar iRacing series is supposed to be duplicating the actual season, I would have thought that would be incorporated in there the same way NIS is.
It makes sense. Yeah, that's why I asked. But man, I can't tell you how fun it was at California in that car. I mean, there were four or five of us in that race, and we had so much fun. All right, podcast housekeeping. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find us. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers so they don't miss out. We do appreciate it. Get involved in the Discord. We got conversations going over there. And of course, our show notes at iRacersLounge.com. We have our merchandise site at iRacersLounge.shop, and we're on regular rotation at the Performance Motorsports Network.
All right, Brad, how'd they do at Tejas?
So Texas, our results for there we had in first place was Gujo 24X. I had a good week, so I finished second. It's fantastic.
Ooh.
Yes, doesn't make up for a horrible other 8 weeks or 9 weeks, but tied for third. We got three. It's Cletus, 545, iRacing Mason, TGI Racing, and then two tied for six was Boats and Hose and Jonas. Eight, Shane, 72, 9 was Ashley Cantu, and 10 was the Chaos 2.
So, what do you guys think of the race? I actually didn't watch it. I went out
Um,
target practicing instead.
it was DBC kind of nailed it, and I know they got a lot of flack for it. It was an entertaining race, but it wasn't a good race. If that makes sense. They only got entertaining because of what happened towards the end, but it really wasn't a very good race. It was Texas. They ought to. I don't know what you do with the track. I don't want to see them reconfigure it and turn it into something like Atlanta, but they need to do something with it. The Xfinity race was good. I really think that it's a product of the car. I just think the car is the biggest issue right now at certain tracks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it, it was another week that I think the Xfinity race was a lot better than the Cup race.
It was. I mean, Larson had the race till he lost the wheel. I mean, the guy said all week it was edgy. The cars were edgy. He's just, it, it, it's. I don't know. Like I said, it was entertaining. I just don't think it was a good race. Had Larson not lost the wheel, he probably would have just dominated and run away with it. But again, what was 16 yellows? So of course everybody's gonna like that. I mean, we tear up stuff. So um, I don't know. Just not a huge fan.
and then I had heard that NASCAR had said that over the weekend, they're going to work on the tire for the short track, but there's definitely no more horsepower. So we'll see what happens with the tire. When's the next short track?
Have you listened to Reloaded yet?
No.
They had a guy come on and talk about the product and whether Texas needed reconfiguration, or actually, they were mostly talking about whether they needed practice or not. And this guy seemed pretty tone deaf about what the results are saying. Saying they think they have the best product they've had in 20 years on the track, and he cited Atlanta because of the close finish in Atlanta.
Well, it's not. Again, you can NASCAR has come up with all kinds of ways to have funny math. There's more passes now than there ever has been. Yeah, when you count every single pass on the track, whether regardless of what it is, I mean, it's funny numbers. Again, we saw it at Martinsville. Guys couldn't pass. You saw it here at Texas. I mean, guys just couldn't pass. Yes, were there some making passes? Yeah, when you're trying to win the race, yeah, you're just going to throw it in there, knowing you're going to wreck. Um, but again, it's just you get to the back of cars and you can't go anywhere. The Xfinity cars can manipulate air. They can you know th- they're not on that rock solid um, platform that allows you're on the bump stops and there's no move in the car. It's just I don't know. Someone needs to listen to this to some of the drivers and do something because everybody is saying the same thing.
Right, Talladega. I mean, who do we like there? I mean, it's wide open, right?
We say that every time, but at the same time, it's only a little wide open because you have a tendency to have the same guys be towards the front at the plate tracks, right? You even see that a little bit in iRacing.
Yeah. Michael McDowell and Ricky Stenhouse and maybe even
Yeah,
Austin Dillon.
yeah. I mean, there's guys that excel at it, but again, all it takes is one big wreck to go ahead and knock out half the field, and there's no telling who can be up there. So, yes, it's a place where guys look for opportunities. I think I think you're going to have four drivers are going to be extremely aggressive because I think this is probably their best opportunity to win a race because they just can't seem to get a handle on a car anywhere else. So that's going to be, I think, a unique thing. But weather's going to be an issue probably. I'm not sure they'll get this race in on Sunday. So get ready probably for a Monday race.
Brad Kay, I think I'm liking Brad Kay. I mean, that team is coming around. They're running good. Brad is a restrictor plate kind of guy. You got TJ up on the roof. Come on. I think it's time for Brad.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love for Brad. It's just they haven't run well. Go back to Daytona. Joey was running very well till he got wrecked. So we'll see. Overall league standings after Texas. In first, we've still got Cletus 545 with 1,825 points, followed by Iris and Mason with 1,804. Canadian was 1759. So points are getting a little tight. Only not quite a third of the way through.
I always think of Talladega and think about all the historical races that were memorable. Regan Smith's first win, or I mean the win he took away from Regan Smith, or Dale Earnhardt's last win at Talladega, where he drove up from like 20th to the lead in the last 10 laps, and to watch that run to the front, or Kevin Harvick wrecking the field on the last green white checker to make it into the playoffs. Pretty cool.
All right, we're going to open hardware with a Sim Racing Corner wheel unboxing. Take it away, Mike.
Okay, so he's got a box from Simpson, with two N's at the end, and it's from AliExpress, is where he bought it, and he's trying to, talk good about it. He said the button box part of it is something that maybe you can reuse and put a different rim on it, because the rim that came with it's kind of cheesy. Um, that's kind of the takeaway I got on it. But like if you're a do-it-yourselfer and you're looking for a value on a button box, maybe this is it.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about their pedals before. So again, it's Chinese-based company. Nothing necessarily wrong with that. It's what it is on the AliExpress. The wheel was pretty cheap, but it's more of an unboxing. He said he was going to do a review on it, so I guess we'll look forward to seeing actually get some insight as far as the quality on the button box itself.
$161.
All right, we're going to stay in the wheel department. We have an MPX by Grid. This is a nice looking wheel. We've probably covered it. I don't remember this one specifically, but it is on their post from Instagram. They do tout that Boosted Media official has called it the best wheel of 2023.
It's version 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, version 2. So they are offering a $100 discount on pre-orders too. So it's not a bad looking wheel. I mean, it's I don't know if you've seen one GT wheel. I feel like you've seen them all just about.
It's getting too hard to say something unique about them, right? I do like the layout. I like the look, but yeah, it's another Formula wheel. How much is this one? Do y'all know off the top of your head?
I'm looking.
It's got grid on it, so it's not going to be cheap.
1,100.
It's not absolutely unreasonable, even though there's no display. I wonder if the top two, the upper outside dials there are hat switches or not. Because if it doesn't have hat switches, that's something you really need in an iRace.
Here's the thing. Everything that Grid Engineering makes is like butter. I mean, it's just, and this wheel is no different. These version 2, they've refined a few things based on feedback from the people like Will Ford, and so they talk about a few of the little tweaks that have changed it from V1 to V2, but it's basically the same wheel. But quality, really good, and then you get somebody like Will Ford saying it's the best wheel of 2023. That's saying something. I mean, because there's so many freaking wheels out there, to get that kind of recommendation from a reviewer like Ford, that's high end. It's definitely would be on my list if you're buying one without a screen. This should be on the list.
All right, Mike, you have to take the next one. It's if
Well,
it's
this one was for
FOV.
Brad. I mean, Brad said he
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to put his wheelbase behind the monitor somehow on the show the other day, and then sure enough, I found this product.
Yep. So I took a look at this. Pretty neat idea. I think they've got this installed on a SimuCube, but yeah. So it's an extension, except in the traditional. If you think about most of the wheel extensions we've looked at, that extension piece is the same width or diameter of kind of like the shaft off your wheel. Well, this one's designed to where it's really narrow, to where you can actually get the base behind the monitor, and you can actually bring your monitor down, right above, the center shaft here. So yeah, it's pretty neat. You got me thinking, Mike. So I appreciate that. Um, so yeah, pretty neat. Not that didn't seem to be too expensive. Quality wise, got some good reviews here. So nice find.
And no flex. I mean, that was the key thing. I mean, even though it's real narrow in the middle there, so the monitor can literally go down into that, shaft area. There's no flex. He shows it, and it's a really a neat way to do that. If that's what the goal is get that wheelbase away from you.
This is one where we need Brian around. He was always our motion expert, but we've got an Alan Kwan review of the DK6 motion system from Sigma Integral.
Yeah, and there's also a video out this week from Will Ford on the same system. I didn't get it in the script in time, but basically these things are the bomb as far as motion goes, but they're $16,000. Yeah. I mean, you can
Yeah.
the system that Brian has was like $3,800 or something.
Yeah, so I did watch this. So the difference between this and I guess the DK2 has 2 inches of motion, where this has six. So a lot of range. He said that you really feel it when you're doing elevation changes. It's like he was turning laps, I think, at Bathurst. You can just watch him. Start to climb the hill, and he's going back, and then he comes down, and he's going down. So yeah, um, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's I mean, you can get D-Box, right, for that kind of money, can't you? And D-Box is considered probably one of the better motion systems out there, or more premium ones. I don't know how you would score that, but yeah, this one is quite expensive for what it is. I like the amount of travel and stuff, and it looks really cool on the rig. And
All right, this next one, when I first pulled it up, I was kind of excited. I was like, really? It's only 12 euros? Oh, that's because it's a printer or a print plan, isn't it? For a button
it's
box.
DIY.
Yeah, so it's what you tend to think of as it looks like it would be the Stream Deck. It's just a bunch of square buttons in a row, right? And it's got a few knobs at the bottom as well. But it's got 20 switches with 2 rotaries and a funky 7-way, which I call a hat switch. It does have 84 programmable LEDs, and you can 3D print it at home. And there's multiple mounting solutions, and you can get a custom made PCB from them, I guess.
Yeah, so you get all the detailed guide and all of the files needed. So your DXF and AI files for printing and whatnot. So yeah, I'm just let me just give you some money and you can ship it to me and I'll mount it.
The PCB board is 92 euros. The whole kit, 162 euros.
So that's more in the normal range for button boxes then. Yeah.
This is kind of a copycat of the grid engineering personal panel that they did. It kind of looks like it.
Yeah, so if you get real enjoyment out of building it, I would say it's worth going that route, but you'd have to be doing it for the enjoyment of building it, not particularly to save money, because the time is money, right? And it's not really that much cheaper once you get all the parts. Um, y- uh, might need a loan. What do you think, Brad?
Yes, so this was a late edition. Um, this is the what is it? The Pagani. Oh gosh, it's the Pagani. Pagani announces full carbon fiber whole, whole, whatever racing simulator. Um, yeah, there's no price yet, but the estimated is around $100,000.
Oh, for a cockpit? Oh man, look, the Pagani hypercar, I guess you call it. Man, that's like a multi-million-dollar car. But this cockpit looks just like it. It's got the same curves, the same body panels, the same, red striping, and wow.
The same price.
And looks completely impractical too.
It kind of looks like a bobsled, okay, if on a base of some kind.
No, no, no.
Yeah, it's a hard pass. I mean, my goodness. I really want to know how many of these actually sell. Do they sell more than 5 to the whole world?
But
They actually
hey,
got the seat from the actual car in there.
look, but guys, it features advanced technology, including a 3-degree freedom of motion platform.
Yep, motion
That
too. Looks like on a pivot. I
proprietary
like the
wheelbase.
speakers. You see the 6 speakers around the monitor?
If you go ahead and buy it, Mike, we'll all come over and take it out for a test drive.
It's pretty.
It'd look great with my VR. Next up, we have a keyboard mount.
Yeah, I'll take it. It's a Instagram post from Sim Sport Gadget. They show off what's called a mini keyboard mount. Um, and it's for a keyboard called the RII or RE, I guess it is, Bluetooth keyboard. Now, this is the one we saw featured on Joe Rogan's rig. Racing is using them on all those fancy rigs. They just put this little holder from SimSport Gadget on there, and they buy this tiny little keyboard that has a little trackpad on it. And so, if you need to use the mouse or keyboard, you just grab it.
Yeah, they make some neat stuff. I've got a 20-port USB powered USB hub that I bought from them 80/20 mounting for it. So it goes right on the backside of my rig. So
Now,
but I mean again it's all 3D, most of their stuff's 3D printed, but they got some pretty cool stuff.
I did used to have a small keyboard like that, and it just wasn't very practical, I guess, because it's not ergonomic, and so it's hard to really type on it, and especially if you're in VR or something like that. But I even had one to operate my streaming computer, and it just seemed more practical to have a regular sized keyboard.
Look, I don't know about y'all, but on any rig I have, I want a full size keyboard and a regular trackball. Um, and a lot of these rigs aren't set up for it. And so, but that's a requirement for me. I do use the computer for other things besides racing. And when I am racing, I do use the mouse and keyboard. Like if I'm adjusting my fuel, I'm using my trackball to do that right on screen.
I've
Yeah,
got
so
that
I
all
use a
set up where I can do through buttons. Yeah.
button box for that. I mean I do want a full size keyboard just because if I'm doing something down here, if I'm typing, there's plenty of times where I'm typing something out on the rig while I'm doing something. But yeah,
My,
I can't
my,
think the last time I used the mouse for anything in the game. During a race.
my Fanatec wheelbase has had a piece of metal that actually sits right on top of the base. And I actually took that piece of metal and put two-way Velcro tape on it and had my keyboard taped to it. But that I just pull that piece of metal off instead of the keyboard, and if I need to move it over, because I actually have to put the keyboard over on my keyboard tray if I'm in the flight sim, but I have it sitting on top of the base when I'm racing, and I can actually reach up under caution or in the pits and type even in VR.
So the mini keyboard is on Amazon for $33.
All right, so a lot of high ticket items today, aren't we? Looking at there, Mike.
Well, we talked about it last week, and now all of a sudden we got a review from the Sim Pit, and he reviews the Pro Sim Quaith sequential shifter. Now, I don't know what else we can say about this thing, but we've already talked about the high quality that this company does, and so now that they have they've always been known for their H pattern as being the nicest H pattern, and that's what we were talking about. Well, this one is the sequential shifter, so
Yeah, and they're originally a you know motorsports manufacturer stuff. They've somebody who's gone from producing actual automobile stuff to doing sim stuff as well. So it's a cool video. Just too much for me.
it seems like it's too big. I mean, look how it sticks up. I mean, it's sticking up as high as the top of the wheel. And he goes to shift it, and he's got his elbow up in the air. I mean, it's too tall. Like you said, this is too much.
Yeah,
It's also too expensive. That's
yeah,
almost
right.
900 pounds, which is going to
Yeah,
be a
I
lot
just
more in dollars.
yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I don't see a performance gain with this. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a wheel. It's not a set of pedals. Um, it's just a way to shift. Yeah, if you're going for immersion, and we've talked about the bazooka and stuff like that, and that would be great. But at the end of the day, until we've got a sim where it's going to recreate us missing gears, stripping gears, or doing something like that, which really none of them do. I just don't see don't see the amount of money being invested in some of this stuff.
Well, let's flip the script and go on a budget instead, Brad.
Yep. So I think we talked about the Moza SGP sequential shifter before. So this was just a review from Sim Racing Corner. Again, I want to say even maybe SimPit did this a while back. Yeah, for an entry level, mid, somewhat low range. Not bad. I think the same thing that the little clip thing there, I guess, to go into reverse or something, didn't kind of work the way it was supposed to. But if you're looking for something that's again a lower end, low to mid range, it's probably a good option for you. And again, if you're in the Moza ecosystem to begin with, then just stay. It's kind of like the Fanatec. If you're in the Fanatec system and you would want to stay in there, I don't know why you would, but it's an option.
This one looks a lot more reasonable, though. I mean, it's not so massive and tall. Looks like it's fairly easy to mount as well, kind of narrow. I'm still kind of partial to my Russian ones with the all metal.
So let's get a live weather report from John.
Yeah, sorry I had to take a short break. We had a little tornadic looking activity out there. So I think we're okay. I think we're in the clear. So I am back just in time to look at a Simicube unboxing by and I can't remember her name, but she's got a pretty good setup here. A lot of Simicube stuff, high end stuff, good quality. About an 8-minute video for us to look at.
Sarah Nochi, and she is a very attractive young lady. Um, and I like her videos. I mean, she's kind of new on the scene. Um, we've seen her build a couple rigs now, and now she's debuting her equipment that she's putting on that second rig. She had the Track Racer TR160S she put together in blue. And SimiCube has hooked her up with literally a crate of SimiCube equipment, including the active brakes. I mean, man, she got hooked up.
What's the what's the accelerator? I can't tell what that is.
What time in the video are you looking at?
Oh, it was actually the opening screen where she's standing there,
Oh,
and you can kind of
yeah, the
see it sitting up
throttle.
there. Yeah, the throttle.
It's on at 4 at 20 on the video, and this is from SimiCube. So this is a throttle they put out that's pretty basic to go along with the active brake as a companion. I think it's $369. So instead of, buying two active pedals, which can be a lot of money, you just buy one and you buy this simple throttle to go with it, which is how I would do it if I was buying these. I'd buy the base plate, this throttle, and the brake. I really like to have a clutch though. I don't. I wish they would have a. I guess you could get two of the throttles and use it. Use it as a clutch. But yeah, a semi-cube unboxing. She's got the Pro wheel. She ended up with the Vala GT23 wheel to go with it. The semi-cube 2 Pro.
Is that Vala wheel? Is that something you get through SemiCube, or is that a separate third-party maker?
They sell it. I don't know if they farm it out, but it's branded SemiCube. There's also a Gomez Industries partnership they have where you can get a Gomez wheel that's branded SemiCube. I'm really high on the brand. I'm really happy with the choice of my base. Um, you know, I've thought about getting these pedals, but I probably need a computer before I need the pedals.
So, Brad, your title on this next item is mean to a dyslexic person, because I really thought it said overrated, but that's not what it says, does it? It says overhated.
Yeah, and that was kind of where our buddy DJ EJ came at his review. So, he says he's not a reviewer, but he's kind of turned it into a reviewer. He's done a couple of these. So he got sent the Turtle Beach Velocity One. He gave it a review. He gave it a much more favorable review than what we've got in some of the other ones that we've seen. And again, that's going to be, look, DJ EJ is racing, with I guess what, a Logitech, and I mean he's on the lower end of his stem setup, and that's fine. Again, there's space for everybody um, in this hobby. So yeah, he was happy with it. He used it for a couple weeks. It's again, I still think for 700, I think it's around $700. You're kind of trapped into something that there's really no expandability with it. And he kind of got in that a little bit. It's not like you're gonna be able to change a wheel out or do anything like that. So and he had issues with couldn't get some of the buttons, I guess, to work in iRacing. So but his conclusion was that it was overhated. It wasn't too bad. So that wasn't done intentionally to mess with you, Dave. That's what he said.
It's going back to the Logitech at the end of the day. So that tells you something too.
All right, this next one excites me. I didn't watch the video, but I do have a glance at the forum post here. Pimax is putting out 2 new headsets, and this is a good thing considering a while back we were kind of like, where's all the VR going? And they've got one that's coming out that's a little bit closer to a user end. I would still call upper end consumer end, but not crazy expensive. They are now coming up with a Crystal Light, which is going to be $899, 700 or 900 with local dimming. I don't know what that is. It's 30% lighter, I guess, than the regular one, but it doesn't have eye tracking, which particularly in iRacing we don't need, and I don't know that my flight sim uses that either. It has the same visual quality, and it has no it has non-interchangeable lenses. So where it does have a massive FOV, big sweet spot, no ghosting, no glare, and corrosion resistant. I don't know
Now,
what I don't know what the local dimming is. I'd like to. Do you guys know what that is?
No, but I'm curious about the eye tracking. I would think you wouldn't. What would you want eye tracking for?
Like controlling a mouse, if like particularly, um, in I don't know if DCS can do it or not, but when you're in a full fidelity plane in Digital Combat Simulator, you can click pretty much almost every button in a cockpit. It's not just keyboard shortcuts. You look where you want with your head, and then you grab the mouse and the little cursor shows up, and you can click on all of the MFDs. You can move every toggle, every knob. You can control it all with a mouse. So maybe you can actually use the eye to track where that goes as well. That would be other than that would be something neat for some listeners who might know more. On the upper
yeah,
end, we do have the Crystal Super, which goes all the way up to 2400 if you get the most expensive one. It has interchangeable optics where which you can change the lens and the display. And I don't know what the need is for that. This is a video I need to go watch. Did any of y'all watch it?
yeah, a bit of it. Yeah, the front part where the lenses are, or the screens, literally comes off, and like you can pick up a different one and put it on. What they have different versions. They have a LED. They got a micro LED. Um, why is the I like you said? I have no idea why. Um, I also got the impression if you needed prescription lenses that you could only do the super. It wasn't available on the light. Um, but it's much more refined from the previous versions that they've put out. Um, Lighter, reduced size and weight. The micro LED, 4K per eye at 90 hertz, while the Q LED is 120 hertz at 3840 by 3840 per eye.
You mentioned prescription lenses. I've just in the last year had to go to prescription lenses, but I still don't need them when I'm in VR. However, I did throw on my reverb inside it. Actually, I don't know if that would be the case with the Pimax or not, but
Well,
it's just
look,
good. It's good to see that there's an option that has come out that's going to fill in that gap, that niche.
that's what I was just going to say. This crystal light is going to be gold for iRacing at $700. I think people that need new VR, theirs wear out. They're on the original Rift or something, and they need an update. This is the one probably to pick.
It can run up to 100. Even the light runs up to 120 hertz instead of the 80 or 90 that you can get with olders. It has 2080 by or 280 by 2. I'm sorry, 2800 by 2800 resolution.
Yeah, David, you ask about the local dimming. If you go to pimax.com, they have a page called What is Local Dimming in VR? And it gives you a picture, but basically it gives you more precise control over the brightness levels on different areas of the screen. And so uh, you get better, deeper, richer colors across the screen instead of that whiteout effect.
Well,
Very
that's good
cool.
news. Okay. Uh, Next up, we have 3D printable grips for the Fanatec Formula wheels, and this is the wheel that I have, but I don't feel like I need the grips. I don't have particularly sweaty hands, so my grips have survived a long time.
Yeah, I watched this real quick. So it's from Dr. Alan Kwan, and he's got the I guess the files where you can get these. One of the things that addressed is some of maybe the flaws in some of the original design on these. He showed some where they would crack So, and he wasn't happy, I guess, with the originals. Some flex in there, so you can make them actually a little bit sturdier. So, if you're in that ecosystem and you got a 3D printer, you can change colors and really do whatever you want to do. So, again, if you're in that system, that's an option for you.
And there's different sizes. You can get it 300 millimeter, I think 310 or 290. There's also grips that just go down and end, but there's also one that goes down and across and has a bottom to it, and that really kind of changes the wheel a little bit. Look, you really have to take the wheel apart to mount these grips to it, but he does have a nice video that shows how to do it and everything. Um, but yeah, if you have this wheel and you're looking for an upgrade of some kind, this is a cheap way to do it if you have a 3D printer.
All right, Mike, tell us about this next wheel on the list.
A new one. We have not, I don't think we've talked about this one. Delta SimTech wheel. And they call it featuring zero bleed LED pods. They have a website, deltasimtech.com, and it's $1,300 US. And that's
So,
with the dual clutch.
what is a zero bleed LED pod?
Well, if one of them is blue and the other one's white, the blue doesn't bleed into the white one. Yeah, kind of. I don't think that's a problem with most high-end wheels, though. I mean, it's your typical, Formula wheel with a display. I don't see anything different or outstanding, from some of the others. Looks like they're based out of the UK.
Delivery lead time 6 to 8 weeks.
Delta Sim Tech. Check them out.
And we can finish up the hardware. We also have the Uniflex Elite V2. How about this one, John?
Yeah, Zim's Sim Wheels. They've got a wheel out. I went to the Instagram page, and it doesn't tell you a whole lot, like a lot of these Instagram posts usually don't. But it's the Uniflex Elite version 2. They've got I think an improved display on it, maybe 60 frame per second display, which frankly I didn't know what it was before, but I think that's supposed to be an improvement over the previous version.
300
Yeah, looking at
millimeter. Yeah.
yep, looking at the website, starts around about £1,000 or €1,000, I guess. It's kind of where it starts. That same that newer kind of carbon fiber that we're seeing. That's not traditional carbon fiber. It's can't think of what it's called. Or the forged carbon
Or
fiber.
something. Forged. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's forged. So I mean, it's not bad looking. For to have a screen, it looks somewhat kind of a lower profile as far as not so tall. Um, yeah, I mean it's a Formula wheel with a screen.
That's a good call out. That does make it different than others, where it has a screen, but it's narrow, like the ones that don't have a screen. The overall footprint is not like a tall wheel with a big old screen on the top.
All right, Mike,
Okay.
let's talk some results.
Yeah, let's finish up on Texas. Friday, open P13. I was the back half of the top 10 most of the night, fairly uneventful. Tried to drive to the front on the last 20 laps, but I ran my tires off in 10 and then I faded. Justin, P12, qualified P11, just got in a wreck early and trying to manage my damage, and and my IR loss. All right, David.
If there's a wrecking car, it's gonna land right in front of me. Ran safe, took care of the car, was gonna have a nice finish. And we had a green flag stop, and somewhere with like 14 laps to go, uh, there's a wreck down on the front stretch, and there's smoke everywhere. And I think the cars are up high. I go down low, and boom, there's a car down low, and destroyed car.
Ouch. And that was a tough week for you.
We'll get to it.
You didn't. Yeah. Anyway, let's keep moving. Chris Waldron, P27, having PC issues, started in the back. It was hard to pass. Wrecked with 3 to go, running P16. Tony Rochette, P15, started fifth. Lap one, I scraped the wall, and the guy in my inside decided he wanted to hug me and wrecked. Another 30 laps later, two cars decided they wanted a hug in front of me and nowhere to go and got caught up in the embrace. After getting all my damage fixed before the green, we ran 104 green till the end. That was nice after a month and a half of trash racing. Kyle Pittygraph, P4, started P7, marched to the top five after about 20 laps and just stayed up in the top five all race long. Had a race winning car, except I pushed it too hard on the last run of the race and just used up my tires way too soon. I'm back to running more races and working on my racecraft. As I can tell, I'm a little bit rusty after taking some time off and running a limited amount of races over the last few months. John, P21.
Yeah, I was in this race with Tony Rochette, and Tony's right. I mean, lap one, he scraped the wall, but this was in the tri-oval, and the guy below him just crowded him too much, caused a big wreck. And so for the whole race, I had damage for 132 laps, finished P21.
Oh, you were caught up in that first one, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the guy underneath him, you can't crowd people in the tri-oval at Texas. You just can't do it. And the guy below him just pushed him up too high.
Okay, and then Brad, P15.
Yep. Started P18. I think we all kind of talked a little bit that the car was just very different than what it was for those of us that ran the A Open on Tuesday night. But looking back, the weather was much different. So much larger swing. We had a lot of wind. I think it was like 20 to 30 mile an hour gusts, which was super challenging. I ran most of the race, kind of mid pack. We did have a long green run to start, and I made some changes. Kind of went the wrong way on the car, adjustments, and then we ended up with a bunch of short runs after that. And that I adjusted for the long run, thinking we're going to get another long run, and it didn't happen. So that's probably about where I should have finished. So, uh, it is what it is.
All right, Saturday fix, Texas. Justin, P8, had to fight for this top 10. I didn't qualify. That was the problem. You need clean air at this track. Tough to move through traffic and save your tires. All right, and then Sunday Open, Texas. Myself, I got a P9. Really struggled this race with speed. I hit the wall too many times. I was a bit slow, but somehow, some way, I got a top 10. I'll freaking take it. David, you got disconnected as you were taking the lead.
Yeah, sucks. I mean, I didn't get the most points I got at Texas was 34, right? And yeah, was taking the lead, was I had figured out how to run the track, got in position, stayed out of trouble, showed the right patience at the right time. And then I don't usually have connection issues. And this one was weird because any other time I have had a connection issue, the other cars disappear and I know it's coming. This time I just heard y'all start telling me I disappeared, and then cars just started slamming me all over the track. Like I was on my side, I was still seeing every car, but they were coming up and dooring me because they didn't know I was there. And I got put into the wall a few times until it finally just completely disconnected me. I'm assuming y'all didn't tell me anybody was griping, so I don't think that they were getting those contacts on their side. But yeah, it sucked. as far as I'm concerned, it's drastically reduced my shot at the championship because I know how many average points won it last year. And I'm pretty far behind now. I know there's a lot of drop weeks, but those are all going to get burned mostly on road courses or Texas in my case now. So I need about 6 other people to have that kind of luck as well. Otherwise, I just, try to keep racing and have some good runs.
Long season, David. Long season.
Yeah, you'll be all right. Yeah, that was disappointing. You know, I was back in like 10th or something when I think you and Justin were up there, and and you were like going to the outside of the leader and just about, and I said, "Look, he's about to take it," and then the car just disappeared, and you never came back. Yeah, never came back. All right, keep going, Justin. P34 qualified like shit, so I was in the back with the squirrels. They ended my day early. My fault. Need to qualify better. Tony P16, another long run. Where we just hit that stupid front stretch wall for some right front wheel damage, which killed the car on the long run. Texas sucks. Brian Curry P2. Yeah, that Brian was up there running with you. He was the only one left at the standing after all that carnage. But yeah, he ended up with a nice finish. Uh, John P19.
Yeah, P19. I was just happy to stay on the lead lap. I just can't keep speed at Texas. Doesn't matter how careful I am with the tires; they just fall apart after about 15 laps. But the leaders just keep going. They don't seem to lose speed no matter how long we stay green. I like this track. It's different, but I'm baffled by it. That 1 and 2 is just too tough for me.
Yeah. I actually learned something this week at Texas I don't think I knew before from Justin on how to get through 3 and 4 and to save tires, and that helped me quite a bit. Kyle Pendergraph, P15, started P20. Just couldn't get the car to rotate like it was Wednesday and Friday. Also tried to play the tire saving game. I tried too hard. It just gave up valuable track position and time. Sunday fixed. I ran P15. I probably got a little bit better than I deserved. I actually sucked out there and made a lot of mistakes. Justin P4 qualified third, stayed top five just about the entire race. Came down to a couple late race restarts. I couldn't close it. I'm finding out restarts are my flaw in my craft, something to work on. Right, Wednesday open. Now, before the race, I had dread. I mean, I told you guys something doesn't feel right with me. I don't have my mojo. Look, and the reason I felt that way is I ran a open on Monday and Tuesday and wrecked out basically. So what happened to me? Well, I got wrecked out on lap 3 by some bonehead who took it 4 wide. The replay shows I'm right in the middle lane. I didn't fluctuate it at all. You can see I'm lined up with the dashes, the white dashes on the pavement, and he was just shoving it in there between the middle lane and the bottom lane, and he eventually ran over me and turned me. So my intuition was correct. David, you got a P3.
Yep. It was a relief. I pushed the winner to the lead, but I got too hot on the last lap, and also the guys behind did a pretty good job of laying back a little bit. And because I got so hot, I tried to just peek out a little. I couldn't get it to cool off, so I just kind of had to jump out of line, and that really killed our momentum. And then the leader, when I run on the outside, came flying. He jumped up and blocked them hard, and they weren't going to check up. He survived it. A lot of people didn't. I had somebody come down and hit me, but I was able to keep it rolling forward, survived, and crossed the finish line third with no cars around me. I mean, it destroyed the whole field. And I really needed this needed it because not only because of the crappy week last week, but it's the only race I'm getting to run this week. I'm going out of town tomorrow to play gigs up in Missouri all weekend. So I had one shot and it paid off.
Yeah, good points, Dave. Well done. John, P10.
Yeah, this was a pretty uneventful race for Talladega. We had one caution out of the 94 laps. I did have something happen to me I've never had happen before. So I'm in a 4-car single file line. 5 laps to go. I was third in line. The guy who was second in line had been pushing the guy who was first in line for several laps. And I guess the guy in front of me got overheated from doing that and blew up right in front of me, right in the trioval. This big black puff of smoke came up. I hit him in the rear end, but thankfully I didn't crash. So kept going, got a 4X out of it. But, P10, I'll take a top 10 at Talladega any day. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, you got to watch for those guys blowing and expect them to blow, especially at the end. The last few laps of the race, people are really pushing their temps, hoping it'll hold. Brad, you had a great P4.
Yep. So, kind of like John, thought it was going to start rather uneventful. I think we had an early yellow, and then ended up, with a long green flag run. So unfortunately, we're all kind of together. Everybody just decided to run and started getting broken up. Guys just couldn't stay in line. But we're getting ready to pit under green. We had the second yellow. Ended up restarting up front, but that kind of started the wrecking that just continued. Was able to work my way back to the front, but ended up getting shuffled out a few times. I'm just not aggressive enough at these tracks, and I know that's why. So, um, just not my favorite place to be. But I just got to figure that out. Ended up getting collected kind of a late race yellow. I mean, I think I said, over chat last night, there's a wall to the right of me. I cannot move any further than I already am when guys are throwing it 4 and 5 wide. It's just, everybody loses their mind. So we ended up with 2 green, white checkers. Ended up restarting on the bottom on both, just tucked up behind the guy in front of me. Tried to avoid the spinners and, ended up with a P4, which is good for me. Finally back above 3,000 in I rating. So that's kind of been the goal, to get back to where I was when I got back on the service last July, which is 3,400. So it's been a slow grind, but slowly getting there.
All right, well done. Tony, there I was minding my own business, 20 laps in, when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, 2 cars on the outside doing the Alabaman slamming to where my bubble was penetrated. I felt used and abused after that one. Kyle, P15, started P3 and just kept it clean for about 25 laps. Got sandwiched between the wall and another car and got wheel damage, and the car wasn't the same. Fought to stay in the top 10 the last 20 laps, but got freight trained out of turn 4 on the last lap and fell to P15. All right, Thursday open today. I got to the front early and we had a 39 green flag run up until the first caution. I restarted P2 after that. Continued running top 10 after the green flag stops again. Then pitted from 7th on another green flag stop and came out second. And then immediately a caution with 13 to go. Uh, Then we get some more cautions, and basically I made some bad moves on the restart and ended up with a P11. Look, I feel like I got my mojo back on this race. I was running up front. I led some laps. I was running second, third, fourth, fifth. Um, yeah, I was just relieved because I've had 3 wrecks in a row at Talladega. To finally get a finish, even though it was P11, I'll take it. I'll try to win it tomorrow. I was in a pretty good position on that last restart, but I didn't make the right move. I didn't switch lanes at the right time and got stuck on the bottom basically. Justin ran P30, top split, ran up front 3/4 of the race in a really stout field. Around 10 laps to go, I ran out of talent and gave a guy a bad bump and ruined my race. Up front to 30th. I need to work on pit road entry under green flag stops. I always lose my pack. Let's talk other racing. I ran IMSA, an actual IMSA race, David, at Road Atlanta, and it was an 89% chance of rain in the Cadillac, and of course it rained on me. I wrecked out early. It was a bad idea.
I did run one. I don't really post them, and I guess I get a podium, and I got a P4, and mine stayed dry. Actually, IMSA there was no chance of rain, or at least there wasn't for that particular race. Odd.
Next was A Open. Bobby, one final green white checker, whole field wrecks. I drive from 20th to 4th. I have to stop and let cars that are completely trash catch up and get their spots back. So I drop from 4th to 12th. Brad, you got a P8.
Yep. So ran Monday night, just kind of just a little test race for Wednesday NIS. Most of the race just trying to keep the car clean, not get caught up in the big one. Not very eventful. Again, just not my favorite style of racing. Just not a huge guy that enjoys drafting tracks.
All right. And then my A opens, I was wrecked out. I made a good move up to the middle, all three wide. I also learned that if you're at the back of the pack, you're probably going to lose the draft. Tuesday night, I tried it again, P18. I was just making bad moves. I kept getting hung out to dry. I got in a couple different wrecks with a little bit of damage. I just wasn't feeling it. Kyle started P1 and led about 20 laps and then got wrecked and had to repair the damage and fell a lap down. Lucky Dog came about 40 laps later. I was able to march up to P18. Had a top 5 car before the wreck ruined it for me. Think it's time to go back to open wheel cars and prepare for the Indy 500. We're drinking that proverbial milk this year. Be open, John, P10.
Yeah, I started P6. We ran the first 39 laps under green. Inside lines, they all decided they were going to pit on lap 39. And so I'm on the outside lane. We all decided we were going to pit on lap 40. Was going great. Coming out of turn 4 on lap 39, everything looked good until the guy in P2 decided to pit from the outside lane. He smacked P1 on the right side, just turned right down into him. Big one happened. I had 245 optional, took 2 cautions to fix. Started P20 at the green right checker, going into the trioval on the last lap, as usual. Cars in front, got into a big one. I dodged all the mangled cars, picked up 10 spots, and got a P10. First 39 laps were about as good as you can get at Talladega. Most people were patient, didn't take chances. There were a few of the 3 wide fools going at it, but pretty orderly until Mr. Oblivious tried to pit from the outside lane.
Ouch. Brad, P17.
I ran a B race at Texas, I think Sunday night maybe. So ended up being top split. Car was really better than where I finished. We had 2 long runs with green flag stops. Car was super loose on long run, so bad that I had to kind of just kept shifting up higher and higher just to avoid it breaking loose. On both ends. So I was running the top 10 with about 15 to go and had a car come down across my nose coming through the trioval. We were racing really hard for a few laps. Ended up spinning out kind of through the infield, ended up finishing 17. The guy apologized after the race, and I'm good with that. We were racing hard. He got a little loose. I mean, everybody knows you're Texas coming off a 4. It's just really easy to push out and catch the wall in the trioval. So he made a mistake. You know, I appreciate guys that will apologize when they do mess up. So if I'm the guy that does it, I try to do that. So um, that's fun. I love that car.
Other racing I ran hosted Chris McGuire Supercars at Michigan. Guess what? Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I'll take it. Uh, I moved to the middle lane on the white and ran right up the middle to get the lead and was able to win it. Man, that feels good. Then I started at the back in the 87s at Talladega, worked my way to the front. I was in position for the win, but I just fell short about 10 feet at the line. It was a nice P3, nice podium. All right, final thoughts, David Hall.
Fix the 4Xs, please. That's it.
All right, Brad Wren, final thought.
I think I'm probably good with the P4 tally. I don't think I'm going to try again. glad to get past this and look forward to Dover and a couple decent, I guess, intermediate tracks. So should be good.
Right, very good. Final thought, John Curley.
Well, yeah, Talladega this week. I mean, either love it or hate it. But I'm just glad that Martinsville, Richmond, and Coda are in the rearview mirror for now. So, going to do the NIS tomorrow night, Sunday. See if I can get that I rating up over 2,300 for the first time.
Right, and my final thought, yeah, man. Early this week, I thought I lost my mojo. I mean, I was out there running like a rookie. Definitely wasn't my normal style, and I'm like, what's wrong? Is it the car? What changed? What's different? Is it the setup? Is it me? I was in a panic almost, but then after running today up front, leading some laps, being able to kind of run it how I want, even though it didn't finish how I wanted, my mojo is back and looking for a win now. I'll run tomorrow night, Sunday probably. This is probably my best chance of the year at Talladega, so I'm gonna keep at it, and we'll see if we can get one. And with that, hey, we'll see you on the track later.
Don't forget the stream's still up.
All right, title ideas. We got 4. I like 2 or 4.
I like 3. Grid like butter. It reminds me of a recent pop song. 4 is also okay. I think 2 is too much.
I do 4.
Yeah, 4.
All right, 4 it is. Good show, guys.
I figure out what's going on with my headset. Super frustrating.
Well, it worked once you got it settled.
Yeah, and they just went out again.
That's got to be USB related, power related.
I've tried it in the hub. I've tried it directly into the PC. It doesn't seem to make a difference.
When you were breaking up there, it almost sounded like interference from another radio device. Is it wired or wireless?
It's wired.
Wired, oh. All right, I'm going to get some food, guys.
Yep. Good show,
Thanks for
guys.
coming,
Yeah.
man.
Later.